Hey Matt, okay, so here's ridiculous video demo number 2. I'm gonna try to explain the concept to you as best as I can. Please do appreciate, number 1, it's a work in progress. Number 2, I still have some work to do on it, and let me show you sort of the setup so far, okay? This is my wife Julia, and here is sort of like the gameplay environment. So right here, we basically have the Mira sort of game board, represented by my iPad. Right here we basically have our pong ball, and right here we have our paddle that Julia is basically going to be controlling, okay? So far so good. So I'm going to flip this around and try to sort of explain this in person, so excuse the camera shake. But that's basically like the gist of the sort of setup right there. Okay, cool. So just stay with me right here. Wow, that sucks. Okay, we'll have to just like bring it in tight. But basically, what I'm trying to kind of accomplish here is that we have sort of like the actual Mira game board right here. And basically we have sort of our 2 paddles, and we have this pong ball. What I really liked about Mira and what I thought was super, super cool was this really impressive vertical field of view, okay? That's kind of what sold me on Mira. I like the fact that unlike HoloLens, I experienced very little clipping when I was looking up and down. And I thought to myself, this is kind of interesting because if you have 2 players and they're knocking around a ball, that kind of means that instead of Pong being a relatively sort of 2-dimensional experience where you're sort of looking down at it, now you can kind of extend the gameplay and actually think about Pong as a pretty interesting kind of 3D board game interactive experience. And I thought that that would be pretty neat. So the idea is that Julia, can you hold your Pong paddle? So tilt it sideways, excellent, love you. So the idea is that she'll kind of hit this, and the iPad, I should indicate, represents sort of the boundaries of gameplay. So over here we have player 2, and they would knock it, and there are a series of sort of 3D obstacles kind of in this space moving up vertically. And I thought this would be really interesting because as we engage in gameplay, we can kind of move the game board and sort of get a better vantage point. And this would open up some really wonderful opportunities to create some interesting barriers and obstacles. The ball would also be ricocheting off of the walls. So there's this element of kind of unpredictability, for lack of a better expression. And the build that I sent you kind of didn't make any sense because I was trying to take some of the assets that Mira had basically provided, and I couldn't figure out how to do 2 things. The first thing was I struggled with positional tracking. Not positional tracking, with just basically implementing tracking and basically fixing the actual level to the Mira marker. So that was sort of like the first challenge. And by December 18th, I hope to have that fixed. So I hope this kind of makes sense. Don't write me off yet. It's gonna be pretty cool when it's done. And I'm gonna put some really interesting graphics on it, but I really have to sort of figure out the tracking issue, which is why I reached out to customer support. And I believe it's Moscow, or the gentleman who's going to send me the t-shirt. But the concept I think is pretty interesting. Users will basically be wearing a Mira headset. On the click event, they'll basically grab the paddles. So Julia, hold the coffee mate, and we'll bang it around in 3D space kind of. Yeah, I think this sets a record for the silliest demo ever.